What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to our YouTube channel.
My name's Jack.
My name's Harry, and today we are going to be talking you through what we believe to be the most underrated part of a progressive house track, the ARP.
Yeah, it's often one of those things that people forget, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
ARPs are one of those things that sit in the background, but they provide, the feels in progressive house. And today, hopefully we're going to be showing you how we make our ARPs.
Before we start the video, make sure you smash that like button, and let's get straight into the video. So today, guys, we thought it'd be a really good example to show you the ARP which we used in Ready For It. Ready For It is probably still one of our favorite songs. Something about it just epitomizes exactly the kind of music which we've been trying to make over the last few years. So yeah, let's just dive right into it. So Ready For It started back on the piano back about a year ago or so. For us, it was a difficult time in our lives, so it was just a really empowering song, one which we really liked. And the ARP was actually the initial idea. It was the first thing which I showed to Jack about the whole idea. So the ARP usually just starts with 3 or 4 different notes on the piano chord, just playing up and down the scale. It really is as simple as that. It doesn't need to be anything more complicated. So before we start going through all the different layers and all the different ways that we process this ARP, let's just take a listen to what the final product sounded like. So as you can hear with this ARP, it is very wet, it is very feelsy, and generally it just sets the atmosphere of the song from the offset. It's the first thing which the listener hears, and for us it gives that ear candy, which draws the listener in from the start. So to start this one, I just picked a basic Nexus sound, quite lazy from me. I just picked, I believe it was one of the plucks.
So it is called Pluck Dance Sequence.
It's from the original sample back for Nexus, nothing special.
So on its own, that sounds like this. Like Harry said, very basic sound, but hopefully the processing that I've done to it will show you how you can take those basic sounds and then make it into something magical. The first thing I have done to this sound is added a little bit of EQ. Generally you don't want the low end in this, so I've cut off around 170 Hertz. I've subtracted some frequencies here because a lot of the time around 500 to 600 there'll be some muddy frequencies that you don't want. And also I've rolled off some high end just because there's a vocal in this song, and generally you don't want your ARPs and melodies and stuff to clash with the vocal. Yeah, it's a really good point. The whole idea behind the ARP is to fill in the gaps in between the main elements, but it is not the purpose of the ARP to shine through the mix completely. So what Jack's basically done here is just made sure that it's put in its place and that the vocal can still shine at the front of the mix. Yeah, and also a good tip for you is if I wanted this ARP to sit a little bit further back in the mix, so when you roll off high end of sounds, it appears further back, whereas when you have a sound with high end, it appears more in your face. So then I've added some overdrive, which is kind of distortion, not doing a great deal, just a little bit of drive, and it's affecting the whole sound, so it's all the way up to 20,000 Hertz. That sounds like this now. So you can see that it kind of compresses it a little bit as well, and it makes it a little bit more in your face. The next thing I've added is some saturation. I've used the Magic Mastering setting, which I love, and it just gives it a little bit more around the mid-range and in the bass. So yeah, as you see, it still sounds quite basic. We have a low pass, which is just doing some filtering around here when the vocal comes in, because like I said earlier, we don't want it to clash with any of the vocal. Then we have added some platinum verb on a bright long verb setting, and this is where the ARP kind of gets the feel and sort of atmosphere. So I'll play you with the reverb now. So as you can see, quite a long reverb, around 3.2 seconds, and it's 50% wet. And also there's this really cool setting in the Platinum Verb where you can shift from kind of more present in the mix to further back, and I've put it all the way back.
It's actually a really, really good reverb plugin, which we highly recommend. At the beginning, we used to think that you had to spend a lot of money on plugins to just get any kind of like real results out of them, but that's not the case at all. We use this in most tracks.
No, and if you don't know where to find Platinum Verb, because it's one of the legacy plugins in Logic, if you hold Alt on the keyboard and then go into Legacy, you'll see that Platinum Verb is there, whereas it won't be in the reverb section on Logic. So that's another good little tip for you.
It took us a long time to work that
out. We've then got a gain which isn't doing anything, it's just for automation purposes. A low cut, which I believe is being automated throughout. So you'll see in the build-ups, we automate out the lows because we want to build the energy going into the drop. So you'll see at the end it gets really thin and kind of pushes it out of the way of everything else, which is what we want in the build-up. So the final plugin, and this is kind of the main secret sauce to this ARP, is this H delay from Waves. So it's on an 8th dotted delay, ping pong setting. The feedback isn't too high but high enough, and it's 50% wet. And I'll play you this without, and then I'll add it on for you. That's without. When I add it on,
So this just completely changes the rhythm of the ARP. It gives it just so much movement in the mix and just instantly makes the sound so much more interesting than without it.
Yeah, without it, it's very like staccato. It's like
flat.
Whereas this, like the flat, like Harry said, it kind of flutters now. And I wasn't planning on using an 8th dotted, but it just sounded really cool. The final plugin on this ARP is another reverb, just because I think I wanted to push it a little bit further back in the mix. And it's from EOS 2, which I think is from Audio Damage. Love this reverb, use it all the time.
Really good reverb.
The decay is like 2.5 seconds. It's on a plate and it's about 30%, 35% wet. And that sounds like this.
Yeah, so as you can see guys, there's nothing special going on here. This is just a basic Nexus sound with some really well thought out processing on top of it. So guys, the main thing which I would consider when you are using an ARP is you need to picture your DAW as an orchestra. You know, you need to picture the ARP playing over here and the strings and the brass and everything playing in harmony. But the one thing which we get a lot in demos is that chord progressions are flat and that it is the exact same MIDI for every single layer which people are trying to use. And a lot of the time that just leads to everything's stacked on top of each other and not being able to shine. Whereas like this ARP in particular, because of the delay, because of the reverb, it's in its own space. It's not like competing with anything, and it just generally comes across a lot better.
Yeah, I would agree. I think even if you listen to some of our earlier songs,
definitely
you'll notice that like the chords are kind of playing the same octaves and everything's the same. So like Harry said, if you can have certain things playing higher notes, certain things playing bass notes, that'll really help. My biggest tip for ARPs and stuff like this is get creative with delays and reverbs.
Definitely.
Because as you've seen from this example, you can pretty much take any sound, a saw, a square wave, whatever, put a few plugins on it and reverb and delay and make it sound completely different. So yeah, definitely get creative with delays and reverbs when it comes to your ARPs.
Another useful tip which we haven't actually showed, or we didn't actually do on the Ready For It ARP, is playing around with the cutoff of a synth. For me, it completely changes the actual sound which is coming out and which the listener is hearing. If you play around with how much signal is allowed to leave each synth, just using the master cutoff, it can really change the results, and often it is the best form of filtering as well, if you can just automate the cutoff mark. So really take a look at that one.
Yeah, just adding to that what Harry said, that's a really good point, particularly when it comes to transitions. So if you want to build a bit of tension, open it up a little bit more, take it away, particularly in the build-up. I think Eric Prydz is like the king of doing that.
Yeah, massively.
Yeah. My final tip for ARPs would be, something I like to do is use guitar amp plugins.
Yes.
So there's a plugin in Logic called, I think, Guitar Amp Pro in that legacy section I told you about. Actually, that's given me an idea. If any of you guys are interested in seeing some of the secret plugins that we use in Logic, leave us a comment below and maybe we can make a video about like the best stock plugins in Logic.
Yeah, sounds good.
Because there are some hidden gems, definitely. But like I said, use guitar amps and get creative with reverbs and delays. And most importantly, wash your hands.
But that's it for this week's episode, guys. Hope you really enjoyed this one. Make sure you like and subscribe by hitting the buttons below, and we will be back very soon with more music related videos. Take care.